Hi, I'm Benjy Chait. This is my grandpa,
Hi.
and we're just gonna do an interview
Be sure to talk loudly.
for this project. So, first thing, what was it like? Was there any difference in the way people treated you as you were due after World War II, like in school?
No. Don't forget, I was born substantially after World War II. I was born in this country. I was born in 1952. So it was already almost 10 years after the war ended. When I was in school, it was not a Jewish area where I went to, but nobody uh, gave me any grief about it. Actually, when we were having our first Christmas play, which they always had, I actually got them to do something for Hanukkah, which was the first time that had ever happened in that school district, is what I was told.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what did they do for Hanukkah?
Well, what I did was I read the barachot for the candles. I read it in English, and that's basically what we did. I explained that's what we do every night. Told them a little bit about what we did. There weren't many Jewish kids in the school. It was a novelty, it was sort of stuck in there to balance out all the other stuff.
I see. Um, are there any stories that your parents told you about their experiences?
Yes, there were a lot of stories that I heard later, not so much growing up, but as I got a little older. For example, we just observed a week or two ago the night of Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass, when synagogues and Jewish businesses and Jewish homes were broken into and damaged, vandalized. And my father remembers very well because he was 17. He went with his father to their synagogue the next morning and cleaned up the damage, which was unbelievable. What had been done in that shul, damage to Torahs, damage to all sorts of things. He said it was heartbreaking, the things, and that was just one small congregation. That happened all over Germany, and when it was done, the German government fined the Jewish community 1 billion marks to clean up the mess. And they blamed them, of course, which was nonsense, but that's what happened. That's just one story. We heard a lot of stories about things that happened, people that they knew. My father had a friend when he was growing up, not Jewish, a year older than him, and the kid joined the Hitler Youth, and then he no longer was friends with my father. That kind of thing. He ignored them, didn't want anything to do with him. So there was a lot of those kind of things when he was growing up.
Cool. So, are there any stories in particular that stuck out to you or that you like to tell?
Well, that one in particular about Kristallnacht, of course, was one. The story how both my parents were able to leave Germany are two other stories. My mother, the end of October of 1938, all Jews of Eastern European extraction were forced to leave Germany. And my mother lived in Eastern Germany, so she and her mother was widowed, they were put on a train and they went to the Polish border. And there were soldiers in front of them from Poland and soldiers behind them from Germany, and nobody would let them to go anywhere. It was terrifying. Ultimately, Poland let them in, and she lived there for a few months with her mother. And then her mother put her on the children's transport, which she was able to go to England I guess it was January of 1939. She was 11, and she was separated from her mother, and she never did see her mother again after that. And my father's story was different. He was too old for the children's transport, although several of his cousins went on it. He got himself with his friend illegally to Berlin and was helping other people to leave Germany, to Palestine, to Shanghai, to England, and he actually was supposed to lead a group to Shanghai, and that didn't happen. And he was given a visa to go to England, and he and his friend went to Hamburg, which was on the a ship. It's a port rather on the North Sea, I guess it is. And he went to a Dutch freighter, and the captain took he and his friend, and he told them to go to the bottom of the ship, what they call a hold, and stay there and don't come out until the captain himself got them. And the Gestapo searched the ship, but they weren't found. And the ship left Germany, and once it got into international waters, the captain came and got him, and then he was able to be, he was away from Germany, so he was safe, and he went to England, and he ultimately wound up working on a farm in northern England with a whole bunch of other Jewish kids that they called a Hachshara, and he lived there for a few years until he met my mother, and then they got married.
So, two things. One, so so I assume that when you said that your mom and her mother had to take the train to go to Poland, what about her father?
My mother's father died before she was born, so she never really had a father. That's why it was only her and her mother.
And I take it your cousin also had to part. Your father had to part with his parents.
Well, that was an interesting story too. He also was put on a train, but being in South and Western Germany, by the time the train started to leave, an agreement had been made. So the train came back, and while they spent the night in the police station, they were free to go home. His father and his sister also managed to go to England. His father was in what they called a Kitchener camp, which was a retraining facility in England. His mother was not able to go to England. I'm not exactly sure why, but she held a Polish passport. Just as an explanation, it's not like in this country, if you're born in the United States, you're automatically American citizen. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work that way everywhere. Even though both my parents were born in Germany, neither one of them were German citizens. And that's before Hitler's time. That was just the rule. You had to apply to be a German citizen. In any case, my grandmother held a Polish passport because she was